The Civil War was a war between the northern and southern states and the U.S. over states' rights and slavery.
The antebellum period was the period before the Civil War.
The economy of the South depended mostly on cotton, which required slavery. Large amount of the money for the United States came through the South. A lot of the cotton was used for clothing and other artifacts.
3.
The North's economy was based on factories and textile mills, and all of their cotton that they used came from the southern states. There was much controversy over the issue of slavery and whether or not it should be legal. The South needed it to power its economy, but the Northerners thought that it was morally wrong.
The slaves in the South were mostly like property for them, while in the North they were free. So many fled to the North, and that disappointed the South, which wanted them back.
In the election of 1860, Abraham Lincoln was a presidential candidate. The South did not like him at all because he was for the abolition of slavery.
Shortly after Lincoln's election, South Carolina seceded from the Union because they wanted slavery. After that, many states were motivated from the South to secede from the Union also.
The Civil War began in 1861 and ended in 1865.
On April 12, the Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter, and Robert Anderson from the unit surrendered the fort 4 days after. 2 days.
Confederate victory. At the Battle of Bull Run, the Union Army suffers a humiliating defeat, and Confederate General Thomas J. Jackson earns his nickname Stonewall Jackson.
The South wins. Battle of Shiloh. Confederate surprise attack on Grant's unprepared troops at Shiloh resulted in a bitter struggle with 13 on-unit killed plus wounded 19,000 Confederates.
3.
On June 1st, 1862, Robert E. Lee assumes command of the Confederate Army of North Virginia.
On September 17, 1862, the bloodiest day in U.S. history, Lee is stopped at Antietam by McClellan. 26,000 men died, were wounded, or were missing in action. It was a draw.
On June 25, 1862, the 7 Days War, Lee attacked McClellan near Richmond. Heavily losses for both armies. McClellan withdraws back from Washington. And this proved to be a really weak strategy because Robert E. Lee didn't take advantage of the battle he had just made the Union run away from and took over Washington, which was the capital for the Union.
On January 1st, 1863, Abraham Lincoln issued the final Emancipation Proclamation. It freed the slaves in the rebelling states and kept England out of the war. It changed the war aim from maintaining the Union to freeing the slaves.
On July 1st, 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg, the North defeats the South, pushing the mark of the war towards the Union side.
Lee surrenders at the Appomattox Courthouse, ending the Civil War.
Unionist victory.
On April 14, 1865, Lincoln is shot in Ford's Theater by John Wilkes Booth.
During the war in 1863, the 10% plan was made. It was a plan for the Union to re-enter the South into the Union as one. Everything that was needed was the voting of 10% of the citizens of each state to agree to be loyal to the U.S. Constitution.
The Wade-Davis bill stipulated that a majority of a state's voting citizens should take an oath in order for them to rejoin the Union.